give you some education on what is happening with transformation. You know, we see all these wonderful transformations, stories, but I want to share what it comes from the physician. What is really happening? And you'll never look at transformation the same again. I trust you. And here's the thing. We all are basically worried about weight gain. I want to lose some weight. I got to go on a diet. But you know what we have found? That 2/3 of the population, you know, and 1/3 of our children are considered to be either overweight or obese. I mean, it's a national epidemic, and it's the same in Canada. 30% of Americans are trying to lose some weight. Another third are at least trying to maintain weight. Americans spend over $30 billion each and every year on diet and weight control plans. But 2/3, if you look at the medical literature, no matter what diet you choose, if you're able to lose weight on any diet, 2/3 of those people gain the weight back within 1 year. And if you go out 2 years, 98% gain the weight back and more. So when RX developed Slenderiiz, the last thing they wanted to do was develop another diet that's going to be successful 2% of the time. How foolish, but that's what people do. See, weight loss is not the issue. It's correcting the problem. And we need to learn why diets don't work. Now, that's not a picture of me. I don't have that much hair on my chest. But if I have a patient come into my office and say, oh, Dr. Strand, I'm going to go on such and such a diet. Well, the connotation is if I'm going on a diet, somewhere in the future I'm going to be coming off that diet, usually returning to those poor lifestyles that got me into the trouble to begin with. But the reason diets do not work is they do not tackle the underlying or root cause, which is insulin resistance. Now, I'm going to share with you what all of this means. But we have to realize insulin resistance is now called pre-diabetes. Used to be called Syndrome X, metabolic syndrome, but now we refer to it as pre-diabetes. 25% of the adults today have full-blown pre-diabetes. Another 25% are in the early stages of developing because it doesn't happen instantly. It takes years to develop. 75 million Americans are affected, and it's the same in Canada. Our Centers for Disease Control projected that any child born after the year 2000, 1/3 of them will develop diabetes. That's this generation. But if you happen to be Hispanic or a Black American, it's going to be 50%. Can you imagine that many people becoming diabetic and all the complications that it causes? But I want to share with you, even though my patients come in and everyone's concerned about this weight they're gaining, and I've heard this story over and over again, say, Dr. Strand, I have not changed my eating habits, I have not changed, you know, my activity level. I never had a weight problem. But last year I put on 12 pounds, and this year I'm already up 20 pounds. What is going on? Well, I used to always say, well, it's just, you know, metabolism, you're getting older and all that. But what I realized, back in the 1990s, there's a gentleman called Dr. Gerald Ravens, who started to realize there's a constellation of problems that occur when people become less sensitive to their own insulin. And this is central weight gain is the hallmark sign. But it's not the only sign. That's why physicians in the medical literature refer to this central weight gain as killer fat. Now that's a horrible name, but the reason is this is just one aspect of a constellation of problems that are occurring because we are just not as sensitive to our insulin as we once were. So high blood pressure, a low HDL or good cholesterol, a high triglyceride level. We see blood sugars going up. We see triglycerides, that other fat in the blood going up. And we have significant increased risk of heart disease, and stroke. So you can see why when someone walks into my office, I'm not so worried about their weight as I am all these other problems. So this is where we get lost. Simple sugar versus complex carbohydrates. That's a 1901 theory. And this is what our registered dietitians and nutrition in the country base this on. We feel because carbohydrates are simply long chains of sugar, the longer the chain of sugar, the slower it takes the body to break that down and raise your blood sugar. That's what we've been basing everything on. But in 1981, Dr. David Jenkins, who is out of the University of Toronto for your Canadians, he's the one that developed the glycemic index and glycemic load. He challenged this theory because they believed that simple sugars, like table sugar, was going to be absorbed much faster than any carbohydrate, that's a complex carbohydrate. So how did he challenge this? Well, he just tested people. And all he did is he gave people straight glucose. That's what all carbohydrates become in the bloodstream. And he measured that, and he gave that a glycemic index of 100. Then he would give his participants in his clinical trials a particular carbohydrate and measure the rise of blood sugar after eating that carbohydrate. So here we use an example of sweet cherries. Well, it went up 22% as much as glucose. So it has a glycemic index of 22. Well, here's simply what he found. Glucose, you can see, he gave a glycemic index of 100. Look at baked potato, or the white potato, 85. All your cereals are in their 80s. Cornflakes, 84. Bread is 70. Oh, but there's that table sugar, that simple sugar. It has a glycemic index of 61. So, rice, cereal, pasta, potatoes, all of the grains spike your blood sugar faster than if you're slapping table sugar on your tongue. But look at peaches, sweet cherries, black beans. Very, very low in the glycemic index chart. So this brought up everything. And so when you look at it from a physician's perspective, what we find is everybody in the United States and Canada, 80% of the carbohydrates we consume are high glycemic. And so what happens is we go out and we have a meal that's high glycemic. Well, our blood sugar rises very rapidly. Well, what does that do? Well, it stimulates the release of insulin. Insulin is your storage hormone. Its job is to transport that sugar into the cell so it can be utilized as energy or stored as glycogen or fat. But the problem is we overstimulate the release of insulin. And that blood sugar comes down just as fast as it went up. But here's what you got to realize, is this is your fasting blood sugar, that black line. It drops below the fasting blood sugar because you've overstimulated your insulin. Well, when that blood sugar keeps going down, 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 you can get shaky weakness, you can get mentally confused. Some people can actually have a seizure or go into a coma, especially diabetics. So the body, that low blood sugar, stimulates what we call our stress hormones. Glucagon, adrenaline, cortisol, to drive that blood sugar back up to normal. Well, it comes back to normal, but you have these high stress hormones. What happens is it creates an uncontrollable hunger. You have no choice. You have to eat again, and you usually crave another high glycemic meal. And this just goes on, day in and day out, over and over. And what happens is that when you spike your blood sugar one time, it leads to this uncontrollable hunger for 2 to 3 days, just one time. So this is what I refer to as carbohydrate addiction. This is what it's as addictive as caffeine, as certain drugs, as different. People can't get off. When I tell my patients they got to get rid of the bread, the flour, the rice, the cereal, the potatoes, they almost go into cold shake right in front of them. And so what happens is, over time, it's like hollering a wolf. We just stimulate our insulin over and over again. Pretty soon we don't respond to it like we used to. And we literally tip over into an abnormal metabolic state, which is prediabetes or the metabolic syndrome. But what people don't realize, and the medical literature shows, is our muscles become insulin resistant first. Well, why is that important? It's important because our muscles normally take up 90+% of our calories from any meal or snack we eat and utilize it as energy. But when the muscle can't utilize those calories normally, many of those calories are now diverted to the fat cells of our abdomen, and the insulin's job is to transport and convert that glucose to fat and then block the release of that fat.
Right.
So what happens is we begin to hold on to fat like a sponge holds on to water. And we have a resistance to weight loss. So if you don't correct this underlying problem, what happens is we just can't lose weight effectively. Even if we lose some weight, it comes back very, very quickly. So now that I've told you that, I want you to look at the USDA food pyramid. What is on the top? It's sweets, it's sugar, all of that. Well, what's on the bottom? 6 to 11 servings of bread, cereal, rice, pasta. I just told you those are the worst foods in the world. So the medical community, our food pyramid, is actually creating the obesity diabetes epidemic. And in fact, people like Walter Willett, the head of nutrition out of Harvard, says this is the way the food pyramid should look. They're worse than sugars. This is the problem. So when I was getting into this, a pharmaceutical rep brought this graph into me, and it tells the story. This is 25 years, this graph right here. So people that could go back another 10, 15 years because of poor lifestyles become less and less sensitive to their own insulin, and they develop insulin resistance. That's the orange line. The body compensates for that situation by actually making more and more insulin. So insulin production goes up. And as long as these two lines parallel, blood sugars stay normal. But I told you, when you tip over and all of that happens, your blood pressure goes up. Your lipid profile goes crazy. You start to gain this unusual weight around your middle. They all fit together. And so over time, the old body, after 12, 15 years, can't keep making that much insulin. Blood insulin levels finally begin to drop, and then whoops, there goes the blood sugar. And we as physicians, we diagnose diabetes out here. Well, the trouble is your arteries now have been aging a third faster than they should for 12, 15 years. So by the time we diagnose diabetes, 60% of our patients already have major hardening of the arteries or cardiovascular disease. It's not a good situation. Enters RX's Slenderiiz program. This is not a diet, okay? If I can get that across to you. This is first step therapy. These are healthy lifestyles. Just think about it. Since it's poor lifestyles that got us into this problem to begin with, it only makes logical sense that healthy lifestyles that improve insulin sensitivity can get us out of this. So, I look at it as a 4-part, comprehensive, healthy lifestyle program, not a diet. Slenderiiz and Accelerate are great, and I'll explain. But it all fits together. A healthy diet, one that does not spike your blood sugar, and modest exercise, not a superstar, but modest exercise improves insulin sensitivity from a different mechanism. Nutritional supplementation improves, again, insulin sensitivity from another mechanism. Now, I like the RX Optimals because that's what the medical literature supports. But there are many of my patients who have more, Omega-Q, Rejuvenex, and even Restorix because they're losing fat and they want to get rid of those toxins. The more you add, the better you do. That's just simply what the studies are showing. But here's the situation. I want to teach my patients how to live a low glycemic lifestyle. So what do? I use Pure Nourish. It's key. It is a behavioral modification tool because your participants can experience a low glycemic meal, and the literature shows you have one low glycemic meal, your blood sugar drops. Not only that, blood insulin levels drop. And I also add, you can use almond milk, coconut milk, you can use water, and I put frozen fruit in. I like to put my giving greens in because we don't give our veggies. But it allows you to, easily experience a healthy diet. And I use this twice a day. But so if you have a low glycemic meal, look what happens. That's the blue dotted or turquoise line. Yes, you wake up with the same fasting blood sugar, but it doesn't spike your blood sugar. Yes, your blood sugar goes up, but not that high. You don't overstimulate the release of insulin. And look you do not go below the fasting blood sugar, so you don't release those stress hormones. You do that over and over, and yes, you'll get hungry again. Just have another low glycemic meal or snack. That's what it's all about. Exercise is simple. All you do is build up to 30 minutes, of modest aerobic activity 5 days a week. It could be walking, hiking, biking. It doesn't matter. Just get the body moving. This improves insulin sensitivity, again, from a different mechanism. Well, then you turn around, and so aerobic activity is key. Now, Slenderiiz is a homeopathic drug containing 10 different ingredients. Most or several of those homeopathic ingredients improve insulin sensitivity, again, from a different mechanism. Others suppress your appetite, others increase your metabolism. Accelerate contains those high doses of vitamin B12 for increased energy and metabolism, but along with biotin and the aromatic herbs that actually make you calmer, make you get through the stressful time because you're challenging your lifestyles. But it's key. It's not the total answer. It just is the helper in trying to help you make these and firmly establish these new healthier lifestyles. So what are the health benefits? Well, what you're starting to see in your Transform stories. A healthier blood pressure, a healthier lipid profile, a healthier blood sugars. You get to establish your healthy weight. You begin releasing fat and keeping it off because you have improved the underlying problem, which you become more sensitive to your own insulin. This is first step therapy. Every physician should be offering their patients a trial of healthy lifestyles before they prescribe the statin drugs or the blood pressure medication or the diabetes medication. Give yourself a trial. This is what Nutrify and Slenderiiz is really all about. This is what we use. I'm a physician. I use medication. But I use it as a last resort, not a first choice. I give my patients a trial of healthy lifestyles. But if my patients say they want to, they come to me and they say, Dr. Strand, I want to make a change. I want to do that. But if I'm going to do this, and I'm going to spend my time, my money, and effort, I want to know this is clinically effective. Well, that's a common thing. That's why we have done all the studies and improve insulin sensitivity. There have been 3 clinical trials done under the FDA, IRB, regarding what I just shared with you, minus Slenderiiz. Slenderiiz, I'll just share with you. But what happens is, every one of these healthy lifestyles improve insulin sensitivity. If I get my patients to make one of them, I see some improvement. If I get them to do 2 of the 4, I see a little more improvement. If I get them to do 3, it gets pretty impressive. You add Slenderiiz and Accelerate, it actually makes it happen twice as fast. Weight loss is twice as fast. Their health improvements twice as fast. I love it. But it's what we've seen. But what happens in all the clinical trials, what happened is 50% of the insulin levels dropped. The insulin levels dropped 50%. They were able to actually tip back into a normal metabolic state and begin releasing fat because insulin is your storage hormone. When that comes down, my patients say, oh, Dr. Strand, what's so hard about never going hungry, feeling great, having more energy, more focus, seeing my health parameters improve, and I'm not trying. Why aren't they not trying? Because we do not rely on willpower. Think about it. All we're doing is correcting, and we're realizing the most potent drug you put in your mouth is the food you choose to eat. And it has consequences. So, our Slenderiiz program is not a diet, but instead healthy lifestyles. You know, weight loss is great. However, keeping it off is priceless, and that's what I look for. When I see these people come up, how long have I've kept it off 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. You don't see that. Diets fail 98% of the time. All this information, all the documentations in my book, Healthy for Life, I've got over 30 pages of medical reference. This is scientifically based. The trouble is no one's doing it. No one understands it, but RX does. They have given it to you. Now, you don't have to think anything about it. You just know, but when you start seeing this stuff happen, you realize what is going on. That is all I'm sharing. Now, these are just some of my websites, raystrand.com, but I want to really point out the healthyforlifeprogram.com, because this is my 12-week online Healthy Life program that we used in all the clinical trials. But what I've done is I set it up for anybody who wants to join, and it's free.
Thank you.
You'll get daily emails from me, weekly trainings, your own lifestyle journal that's self-graded. But it's there. I mean, you may or may not want to take advantage. And then Dr. Strand Lifestyle Coach is my certified lifestyle coaching program. It's a self-paced program. And just wanted you to know that's where we are. And I hope that you can sit back and realize when you hear the next transformation story and people come up to you, you realize this is what we should be doing. The American College of Endocrinology got together and they said we should be treating this prediabetes as aggressively as do diabetes, because if we wait so long, it's too late. 80% of our diabetics still die prematurely from a cardiovascular event, heart attack or stroke. That hasn't changed in the last half century. All the treatment, all the drugs. So they looked at the worldwide medical literature just like I have. You know what they concluded? What should we tell doctors to do to treatment? They said, intensive lifestyle changes. This is it. But why don't doctors do this? Why don't they treat prediabetes? Because there's not a drug for it. Doctors just want to write. They don't have time and effort. That's why we're out talking to a team of people who can actually change health. I'll tell you, Steve Taglis has changed the health of more people than any physician, including myself, has known. You're changing lives, but you can have a business doing it. You are entering the health and wellness industry. Thank you.